and some other game reserves around Africa. I'm here for a couple of days to see how we all get along together. We had a nice chat in the chat room this morning. Rexon is our cameraman this afternoon, and he's going to help me with the roads as well, because I'm not too familiar, hoping I'm not going to get lost. So between Rexon and I, we're hoping to have a really wonderful game drive this afternoon, and let's get on with it. Well, the sky lifted considerably from this morning. Still a little bit overcast with some sun coming through. Warmed up the day very nicely, got a little bit of humidity. Make for an interesting afternoon. Impala nursing her young. Very interesting behavior now that they're starting to lamb. The youngsters are forming little nursery groups during the day because they don't move around as much as the adults in the feeding. And when they're not drinking, they sit down in a small nursery group. Picture of pure tranquility. And one comment for Colleen. Colleen, thanks for the video clips you sent this morning. I had a look at them. I had a look at that hyena. And although it wasn't very easy to see, it looked like it was rather an old animal. I didn't see any visible injuries or new injuries. It clearly had a serious fight at some stage that damaged the ear. The ear was completely collapsed, probably the cartilage broken. But looking at the back of the animal, looking at her hips, she seemed to be a very, very old individual, possibly moved on from the clan, out fending for herself, getting weaker as the days wore on, not being able to use the rest of the clan to her advantage, and possibly she eventually passed on from old age. There were some pretty dark marks on the back of her, but since she was sitting in the water and her back was so wet, I couldn't really tell with that footage. Would have been really nice to have seen that, but I hope that answers your question somewhat. sure if I move. Yeah, and that's what channel that's supposed to be on? Okay. Just checking.
Yeah. Use the channel 3 and
Channel 4. Okay. Thanks, Rex. Okay, some of you are wondering about these big speed bumps in the road. They're what we call mitre drains. And they're there primarily to push water off of the road, prevent too much erosion. And speaking of erosion, on the right hand side, if we could have a look at here, Rex. This is how we combat erosion. Taking a page out of the elephant's book. When elephants push trees over, they create a very similar effect, with a lot of dead branches that trap seed, create little micro ecosystems for new seed to develop and grow without animals picking on it, feeding on it. And in time it rehabilitates the eroded areas. And perhaps during the drive I'll try and find a tree that has been taken over or pushed over by an elephant, and to see the kind of vegetation that comes up around the base of or around the trunk and branches of a tree that has been pushed over. Quite an important process in the regeneration of plants and trees. Not very easy for them to gain hold and to grow where there is no cover. So many small animals that feed on the seed when it starts growing, just when it starts swelling. Impala that can nip a young tree down to its growth point. So a lot of dead branches are important to not only provide protection but also to put nutrients back into the soil, where a tree has grown and depleted the soil of a lot of the nutrients. There's some kudu on the right hand side coming up. A magnificent bull. Looks like two bulls. Group of antelope known as the spiral-horned antelope. It include the nyala that we saw this morning, and I'm sure we'll see some more of. Bushbuck, the bongo from East Africa, mountain nyala, which is very rare, but an exceptionally elegant animal, capable of jumping great heights from standstill. I've seen them clear 7-8 foot fences. Each stripe on the other kudu is unique, like a fingerprint or a stripe on a zebra. Often easy to keep track of individuals by the stripes. Sometimes you get two stripes merging, which make it very easy. Of course, with the bulls it's very easy because of their horns. These two bulls are really, really special. See if we can get a better view there of the second one behind this bush. Got an oxpecker on his back. Oxpecker is not working at the moment. It's sitting and grooming itself. Often lining their nests with the hairs from the animal that they groom. Had a very good question from Bas. How long a kudu's horns get? And measuring a kudu's horn, one measures along the spiral, not in a straight line. And, well, I'm not a hunter, I'm not too sure. I think 52 inches, if I might be corrected on that. And Bas, I'll have to get back to you on length. But both of these bulls are beautiful specimens. I think the one, well, it's hard to tell. Both of them have a good rack. But this bull that's coming up in front of us now, probably slightly bigger. I would say that's pretty close to getting to almost record size. They'll grow a few more inches. In their prime, both of these bulls. They occupy a very specific level of the browsing chain. Giraffe, of course, being the highest, elephant next. But kudu can reach a little bit higher than the impala when impala are browsing, and perhaps a little bit lower than giraffe normally stoop to browse. So they often have quite a selective browse level on the trees. Characteristic of the kudu, that lovely white chevron on the face, halfway down the muzzle. You make out some of his white markings under his tail, only really used for distress and warning signals, curling up their tail above their back and flashing the white, very much like some of the deer in the northern hemisphere, something we call flag signaling. Draws the attention of other members of the herd as well as possibly distracting the predator during a hunt. Part of body language. These animals don't move around talking to each other as much as giving each other signals with their ears, their tails. The casual swish of their tail now is a very relaxed, I guess you could say, giving off a relaxed body language. As long as their tails are swishing, they can carry on browsing. As soon as one is interested in something, as soon as there's any slight hint of danger, the tails stop, and normally other animals within the vicinity will stop browsing to see why there are no more tails swishing. Of course, there is the added benefit of keeping flies off of the bump. Really wonderfully relaxed bulls. So amazing to be with animals that carry on doing what they normally do despite the vehicle, despite my voice. They're accustomed to us, but they're still as wild as they can be. We're going to move on. Leave these two kings of their domain to do what they do. Let's go and find something else. Wonderful, nice way to start the day. very important part of game drive and keeping track of things is seeing what they've left on the roads in terms of tracks, dung, drag marks. Yesterday evening Rexon found some drag marks that look like a leopard dragging its kill. Hopefully we can follow up on that later. Dried out, the ground has dried out quite well in fact after today. It's not too hard, there should be some fresh tracks around from the day's movement. Oh, missed that giant plated lizard. Very large, very old termite mounds. Collapsed. Now home to a host of things. An unusual sighting on a game drive, very unusual. Huge steel bird that makes a noise. Just flew over. Not sure if the mic picked that up. With all the females dropping their lambs at the moment, the males don't have very much to do. They don't have their characteristic harems. And this is when they start forming up their bachelor herds for the next breeding season. And in the process they do a little bit of sparring, measuring each other's strengths and weaknesses, getting to know each other, establishing a hierarchy amongst all the males in the area, so that when it does come to the real thing, there's not too much in the way of injuries. The strongest in the duel invariably asserting his dominance, and the weaker one breaking away. Very, very seldom does it get too dangerous. Only really when two males of matched strength square off against each other and neither one wants to give way. But in the whole dynamics of the mating season, when they are rutting, It's got a lot to do with the individual's health at that time that they're sparring. You might get a very strong male that during his tenureship of the harem, he loses weight in trying to keep all the other males at bay, and within a week or two, he's ousted by what could have been a weaker male 2 weeks earlier. It's nature's way of ensuring that there's an injection of new genes into the harem, so that it's not only one male that's breeding. But all starts at these times now when there is no mating going on. The males happily browse together, feed together, and in the process, even from their first year, start sparring and learning each other's status within the male population. We should see some of the youngsters maybe later, maybe on another drive, some of the yearlings that are just starting to learn how to use their horns, starting to learn tactics, and that will go on for the next 2 years before they are strong enough to dominate a herd themselves. Tim, thanks for that question. Very interesting one. I've been very, very lucky. I have seen several pangolin. I once found a pangolin in the Timbavati in the middle of the day and got some really amazing photographs. But I was also lucky when I was in the Sabi Sand about 12 years ago. There was a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Swart who was doing his thesis on pangolin, and he had a number of them with radio transmitters on. And I went out to them a couple of times at night to find the pangolins and follow their movements. Very, very special animal to see. And I don't think that there are many that have seen them on drive, so it would be exceptionally lucky to pick one up. Their numbers are seriously threatened at the moment, with wildlife encroaching on human habitation and humans extending their range into wildlife areas. There's a need for electric fencing, and as much as the electric fences save and protect the wildlife, they can be detrimental, and one of the creatures that is mostly affected is the pangolin. It has its habit of trying to climb over the lowest strand of wire, and with the electric shock it curls up, and unfortunately, as sad as it sounds, that's the reality of it. Possibly a contributing factor to their decline in numbers. Mostly pangolin hole up in termite mounds where burrows have been made by porcupine or warthog, abandoned burrows. So I'm quite sure we drive past several on every game drive, tucked in their burrows in the depths of these large termite mounds that have been abandoned by the termites. Their tongue has a very teeth that extends way into its spinal column, I think, able to extract hundreds of termites with every penetration of the termite mound with its tongue, long sticky tongue. aren't the only food of the pangolin. I think in Jonathan's studies, he found that there are a number of ant species, including the pugnacious ant, which is not a very nice ant. I think there were several species of ants that featured in a pangolin's diet, as opposed to the aardvark or ant bear, which is, I would say, is predominantly a termite eater. These pinnacle mound termites that we see, it's only one species of the hundreds of species we get around here. But since they live in such large numbers, and they are such large termites, that it constitutes the bulk of the diet of the termite. You can see this is a different species with some very fresh workings at the top and on the side. Termites will mostly extend their tunnels and their ventilation chambers in weather like this after it's been raining, when it's damp, moist and humid. Very critical to maintain temperature in a termite mound. So on hot days they need to have vents open, and on cold days they need to close them up. This is quite an active mound. That I was too far from the mic, but that was a bunch of termites busy extending one of their chambers. As soon as I got close to them, some soldiers armed with very huge pincers came out towards my finger. That must have picked up my carbon dioxide, must have picked up the vibration of my voice, the vibration of me moving on the mound. They have a defense mechanism of rattling their heads against the termite mound that send little vibrations through the mound that is then intensified by many others to give warning signals to be on the defensive. I just have to move. We're having traffic, Friday afternoon traffic. Okay. Traffic seems to be doing fine without me moving. So what we're looking at now are a bunch of workers that are bringing their little clay balls to increase this particular tunnel that they're working on now, making it very vulnerable. Some of those very large-headed adults or soldiers are the defense. You can almost look at it as one organism, a termite mound. And just like us, when we cut ourselves, our body's defenses, our blood cells, white blood cells, form around a wound to protect infection. Very much so with the termite mound. When there's a breach in the mound, the soldiers crowd around the breach while the workers close it up. A very efficient organism if one looks at the termite mound as a whole organism. One of the only creatures in nature that's able to break down the cellulose structure of the plant. Most animals that are browsers, most of the mammals that are browsing, have relatively little effect on the cellulose of the plant. They require either bacteria in the gut, or they simply don't digest it fully, and a lot of it comes out as quite rich nutrient, ready for other creatures to act on it. Termites are one of those creatures that are vital to an ecosystem, because they break plant matter down to its final components, and the byproduct is what they mix with sand grains to build their mounds. They're the only creatures that can do that. A little muddy pan. The It's slowly filling up, no doubt, with the rains. Once this pans like this fill up with water, and now in the wet season become wallows for elephant and rhino and warthog, these animals that have very little hair and need the benefit of mud as a sunblock, as well as helping them get rid of parasites. And each time a large mammal wallows in the mud, it walks away with a few kilograms of mud, making the pan bigger until it becomes a little water hole. You can see a fallen tree with a lot of mud wiped on it. Not very easy to see, but obviously used by large mammals, rhino or elephant, to rub their bellies once they've been in the mud wallow. Helps rub off the ticks and other parasites that stick to them. All part of good body hygiene in the bush. Mud wallows. Incredible little ecosystem that develops in these little seasonal pans. Organisms that live dormant in the dry season under the mud, either as larvae or eggs, or in some cases as adults, and wait for the pans to fill up, and when the water level gets to be just the right height, what we call hydrostatic pressure, these eggs hatch, and they have such a fast metabolism that they can live and breed in one season and lay eggs again, not to mention the frogs. But that's the whole game drive's worth of discussion. A walk, really. Good for a walk. Talk about the life in the mud pan. Thought we might find something here at this dam, but At this stage, nothing really happening here. We'll carry on driving for a bit. Not too much interest in water holes at the moment with the rain that we had last night. The vegetation was quite wet this morning. There've been little pools in the roads, in depressions, and some of these mud wallows. Animals not too dependent on the existing water holes.
Let's go and work on that area where we're at that house this morning.
Okay, that's a good idea. But you'll have to direct me. Takes a while to get used to roads and particular features. We don't have road signs, we don't have buildings as markers. We have termite mounds and particular trees, certain bumps in the road, certain bends that one has to get familiar with. And then of course what helps is every time one stops to see an animal, you pick up certain features in an area when you're stopping and watching an animal that you recognize time and time again, and especially if it's a really nice sighting, you always recall the day you saw something at that point. Sometimes we even name things after certain sightings. Be able to find those areas again. Grey mark was here, yes, I remember that. So we're going to head into the bush at the moment. We're going to go and see if we can find something from these marks we saw. Unfortunately, the rain has pretty much obliterated any possibility of following any tracks. It's a bit of a hit and miss. Going to rely on our noses here as well. If there has been a kill, we're likely to pick up the smell of the carcass, or the stomach contents at least. Leopards do have territories, and they do perhaps have trees where they have on occasion stored carcasses. There's no real marker as to what tree it's going to take a carcass into. Sometimes it has to be the first tree it can find because the hyena have picked up on the kill. Coming up to Termite Mound with a pretty big hole in it. Getting Rex hung up in some thorns. Okay.
Color on the tree. It's a reddish color on the tree. Go ahead. I want to put it there. Keep it moving. I think it's alright.
Really?
Yeah.
You got good eyes, right?
Right.
The one at the back there.
That's what's going. Definitely. I got no Savella here.
Yeah. Okay. We're in front of us.
Yes. Look at this. The kill's right here in front of us.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got this catch. Oh, it's beautiful. I'm just going to switch off and he's really very casual. I think we need to get around here. It's very slowly on the move. Not too concerned with us driving over a few dead branches on the ground, trying to get around to see it better. Just slowly walking in our direction. Got a pretty low branch here. You know where you are.
Yeah, probably the river net heading sort of south. More towards the south of river net. start of the year. We get over 300 meters west.
Stand by for Rexon. She's clearly interested in something. Tip of the tail twitching, the ears facing forward. Oh, now she's listening to me. Something's got her attention off to our right, relatively thick. Wouldn't say she's stalking, but clearly watching something. Sometimes that white tail just gives them away when they get a little too excited. A couple of hornbills hovering around her. McQueen.
There.
Yeah. Oh. Didn't sound too good. Hopefully not as bad as it sounded. She's on top of a mound. If only we can get to see her. She's clearly moving around looking for something.
Yeah, primitive, and that tracks the best approach coming, but remember where we can have my group on before this block.
No, negative. Close by the shooting range.
Negative, I can hear them over driving the Garyman. It's you.
Down further.
Stop where you are, heading off direct.
Copy.
Rexon.
Yes, good.
How far are you from Garyman about?
200 meters.
Still my well done.
Changing direction now, heading west. Yeah, this is
Alright, copy, thanks.
Yeah, Rex, I got your visual against police.
yeah, probably there for you. He was somewhere here. Can't do that.
Copy.
Rexon, you only got 2 mothers there.
Run.
Cool.
Careful.
Okay, copied. Okay, we seem to have just lost it temporarily. Trying to get around the termite mound. Very typical of this cat. I believe this is Tingala. I believe some people were asking.
Rexon.
Yeah, we've moved on from where she was.
I'm here. Garyman, I've got your guys' visual. Mind if I see if I can get a visual from here maybe?
Yeah, like this is over somewhere where we are. So they do kind of not forget.
Sure. Alright, for you.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for the positive reinforcement, as they say, and the comments. I think with other vehicles moving in, she's either gone into hiding or she's managed to avoid us. So we can keep trying to pick her up again. We do have some game drive vehicles coming in to see her. She came over there. She was concentrating on something there. Yeah. Just turn around and... Thank goodness for power steering. I would be having an upper body workout if this was my Land Rover.
You from?
Ja, zijn maar.
Yeah, like this.
Looking for.
Alright, copy. Do you guys 2 minutes to get out again? Will you just give Andre an update?
Okay, copy.
Cool.
I'm pulling RFP and low of look at the open area west of Baboon Pan and of Diamond. Leaving an open lock.
Ja, kan voor?
Is it you? boat.
Yeah, we didn't booger. Only Rexon booger them. You see, it's coming to the south. Not like here.
I saw something white there, but then I heard something here.
Hey, Captain, what's your bumper there? I can copy his clothes, but I hear that. Yeah, I'm getting back to good right now. I'll come back later. Just you can put your blankets for us.
Amazing how a leopard can melt into the bush. Look. But the branch. Yeah. From down there.
Down there.
Station with them dwarves, Gary, mate.
Yeah, friend Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, there's hair there. Managed to find some hair from her kill. There's some blood on the ground, clearly flattened, and clearly was there today because it hasn't been rained on. You can see that where the kill was lying from last night, there was obviously blocked from the rain getting to the soil underneath. A couple of blood spatters moving off the direction around her. But if it was a young animal, she possibly take quite a lot of the carcass.
Kills, Gary, mate. No stop in your premiere, there's a place for one.
Copy, thanks.
Needless to say, that's why she's on the move again. She's finished this one, it's time for another one. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe that's the English. I don't know, it said one of the pans where there was involved. Huh? I don't know, I didn't get the name of the pan.
Yeah, these smart things are going mad, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Will you point me in the right direction?
Nobody, they lost it.
Okay, thanks.
Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed that leopard. Obviously chose to a bit of peace and quiet. But now we know more or less where she is. We can hopefully keep track of her in the next day or two. Okay. Going to have a look at the water hole. Isn't far off the direction she was moving in. Well, I think that bodes well for me, my first real game drive, and having a leopard so early in the afternoon. I say it's the luck of we. The luck of we. Egyptian goose here. Sure to find out if a leopard comes along. Oops. Yeah, folks, we're going to leave this area for now. We're going to go see if we can find some elephant that were picked up a little while ago when we were looking at that leopard. Just been asked a question in the chat room that brings a smile to my face because it changes. The question is, what's my favorite animal? Well, right now it's leopard. In 5 minutes, hopefully it'll be elephant. Back to where we started, off-road with that leopard. Don't think she's going to be around. Very difficult answer to that question because I love everything. When I'm watching a leopard, it's the leopard. When I'm spending time with elephants, my favorite is an elephant. If I'm watching a wasp do a thing, for that moment, it's a wasp. So it's the cats definitely, elephants, but to put one above the other is very difficult, and it's mostly who I'm spending time with at any moment. Earlier on in the afternoon, we were sitting with those two big kudu bulls. And to be honest with you, for that moment, those are the favorite things on earth. To sit quietly with two kudu bulls, unfazed by the presence of the vehicle and me talking, quite a magic moment. It's the moments that we get to share with the animals that make them favorites for that moment. And having the freedom, I suppose, to change our minds all the time. As soon as we see something new. I think if you hear me talk about wasps or spiders or snakes or birds or flowers, while I'm talking, it might sound that that's my favorite for them, but it's really very, very difficult to choose. Some elephant folks out on the boundary, some lovely group of bulls. Magnificent big bull facing us, got a couple of youngsters with him. This youngster side on to us, clearly coming into must, probably one of his first must periods. Must being a time when a bull's testosterone levels increase. They have a temporal gland between the eye and the ear that leaks fluid, dribbles fluid. Does lead to heightened aggression or heightened, since testosterone levels are very high. They have relatively short tempers. You can see this bull's right tusk is broken off. It was possibly his master tusk. Elephants have one tusk they use, much like we use our right hand or a left hand. Other small bull also in must, crossing our boundary. If anything, looks like the big bull's moving them on. He's not in must. But it's possible that his right tusk was his master tusk, the tusk that he used for breaking bark off of trees, digging things up, possibly broken in a fight, also possibly got stuck in a tree. And if we could have seen him again, we would see that his left tusk is now becoming worn because he's using his left tusk more. Wonderful use of trunk and foot in feeding. He'll hold something with his trunk and kick it with his foot to break it off at the base. So we can't follow them, unfortunately. At least we managed to get them before they crossed. nice that us humans have got boundaries and the animals don't. Puts things into perspective, really. And much like we lost that leopard, you'll see how these elephants, as big as they are, will just merge into the bush in a minute or two and be lost to sight. I think one human being would make more noise than these 3 bulls put together, moving through the bush. Mostly due to the configuration of the bones in their feet, that they're able to cushion the sound, or cushion their feet, and cushion the sound of any branches they might step on. Having lived in the Cape for a while, I haven't seen elephant for a couple of years. In fact, since I left Tarangire National Park in northern Tanzania, which is 2.5 years ago. So a doubly auspicious day for me, for leopard and elephants. There was Lamiti that side. Huh? Getting back to the question of favourite animals, and now that I've seen elephant again today, after not seeing them for a while, and trying to substitute whales for elephants, and while they are magnificent whales, somehow I just never formed a bond with whales as I've formed with elephants. So I think, despite my passion for the cats and the small creepy crawlies that give many people the creeps, I think I'd put elephants on top of the list quite happily. If I remember correctly, my mother tells a story of my first polysyllabic word. The first long word I ever used was elephant at the age of 2. Staring out the back of their car in the Kruger National Park while they were watching giraffe and impala at a waterhole, and I was leaning up against on the back seat looking out the back window, and I was singing elephant, elephant, and my mum turned around to look at me because I suddenly used a long word, and there was a big bull elephant standing behind the car. Just picked up tracks on the road. That's from last night. This is possibly that leopard we had when she was walking around last night. Pardon? Clearly been rained on, so not very fresh tracks, but she must have walked here at some stage during the night. Although this been a lot of vehicles here, so not easy if she's walked in the middle of the road. A lot easier where they're on the side. The cats love the roads and pathways. They can walk in silence, more comfortable. And so we find lion, leopard, cheetah, maybe not so much cheetah, but certainly lion and leopard in patrolling their territories often use the roads as territorial boundaries. Fresh giraffe tracks that have crossed the road as well. Hello to Angela, and a question from Angela that is a very valid question and actually a very good one. Why elephants, being social animals, or rather why do we sometimes find them on their own? And I can probably give a couple of answers to the question. I think the main answer I can give is elephants are a matriarchal society. The social structure of a group, the cohesion of the group is all about the cows and their developing offspring, the children, the youngsters up until the age of puberty in the case of bulls, and of course in the case of young cows they stay with the family unit. Bulls, just got to turn a corner. Bulls typically leave the family unit when they become teenagers. Very strict rules in elephant society as to how old you can be before you can procreate. And elephant bulls need to learn what it means to be an elephant bull. And to do that they need to leave the group as a youngster. And just as we've seen, having a big old boy with a couple of youngsters at his side, not only do they offer him a fair amount of assistance with regards to listening to danger being human. That's why they were being called Askaris in the past. But they also learn from the bull. They learn feeding techniques. They learn where certain fruiting trees are. They learn sparring techniques. They also, much like the impala and the kudu and most of the animals that form bachelor groups, in the process of forming a bachelor group, they learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. They practice sparring. They learn how to use their trunks and their tusks to best advantage, and in the process develop a hierarchy amongst a local population. And when it comes to vying for a female, before fights can get out of hand, since they've grown up with each other, they're aware of each other's techniques at sparring. It very seldom gets very wild. It's only really big bulls that will take it to the extreme. But another thing about elephants is they have an incredible communication system. They can speak to each other over long distances using infrasound, sound waves that are a little bit too low for us to hear. They use vibrations in the ground with their feet. So where we see one or two elephants that appear to be on their own, for all we know there might be a herd behind the line of trees within a mile or two, still in contact, still moving in the same direction. but not entirely unusual to find a bull on his own, particularly big old bulls. More unusual to find a youngster on his own than a big old bull, preferring the peace and quiet of their own company than having to look out for a couple of young upstarts. And since the bulls are on their own a lot and in small bull groups or bachelor groups, it doesn't preclude them from meeting up with cows. Since as I said, they're in contact with elephants in an area through their vast network of vocabulary and sound. They do meet up with family units from time to time to do a lot of socializing. They recognize each other. Youngsters recognize their original family units. And it can be a very exciting thing, seeing elephants that have been apart for a while joining up for a social gathering that sometimes lasts 5 minutes, can last 5 days. The cows, though, tend to want to be off on their own with the youngsters. Elephants don't have very much in the way of inherited instinct with regards to feeding and how to do things. A lot of it is learned behavior, and since it's learned behavior, it's learning by example. The cows hold a wealth of knowledge of plants with medicinal uses, where good feeding grounds are, where dense thickets are for hiding in bad weather or in times of danger. Excuse me. And since they are pretty much a par with humans, their whole development is very similar. A 5-year-old elephant is about as mentally developed as a 5-year-old child, and so needs to be with the family unit for well into its teens before it can function pretty well on its own. There's some feeding techniques that elephants don't learn until they're fully adult, able to use their bulk and their weight to shake trees, push trees over. So I hope, Angela, that answers your question. Please let me know if you need a bit more elaboration. Termite mound. Another termite mound with some fresh working on it. When they create a chimney, it's usually at this time of the year when it's damp and it's moist, when they're getting ready to release their reproductives, their winged reproductive termites. All the termites in the mound are non-reproductive until the weather conditions are right, and their winged kings and queens are released en masse from those freshly built turrets. And no doubt they're waiting for another thunderstorm. An amazing sight to see, as all the termites of the same species will release their reproductives at exactly the same moment. Weather and atmospheric cues that get them all active at the same time. Nature's way of ensuring a lot of them survive, because there are so many things that love termites. Termites are very high in protein, one of the most delicious insects to eat. I've seen lion eat termites, I've seen eagles hopping along the ground catching termites. Of course, all the birds go mad. And since there's such an onslaught on the population, by releasing millions and millions, guaranteed that some of them will meet up with a partner and burrow into the ground and start a new termite mound, which can take a very long time to develop. I've sat on the lower Zambezi River at a place where somebody wanted to build a camp once. We camped out there for about a month in the height of summer in the rainy season, and trying to cook on a little fire with some gas lighting. We ended up making more of a dinner of the termites than flying into the frying pan while we were cooking. Slightly nutty in flavor. For those of you who wish to try it, you're welcome. Now's the time to come to Africa to eat termites. Franklin just got a price. I guess it was us. Franklin or spur fowl.
Sound up.
Carol has just asked a question. Hello, Carol. And the question is, what causes the death of a termite colony within the mound? One moment. That's fresh. Just picked up some scrapings from Rhino. Hopefully Rex can pick that up. The rhino that's come through here and scratched as he's walked through the... Pardon? That way. Pardon? Go back. Okay. So, getting back to the question, why are we going around this interesting development? The queen in a termite mound governs the termite mound. Without a queen in the termite mound, termites wouldn't know what to do. It's the pheromones that she gives out. There's a collective knowledge in the mound that makes everybody work. Oxpeckers on their way to the rhino. Maybe we just picked up rhino tracks and some oxpeckers flying over, but they're a bit too high. So, invariably, if a queen dies, the termite mound is threatened. And although you can get what we call a secondary queen, where one of the workers becomes a queen, develops reproductive capabilities, and even then, if that dies, it's possible that a tertiary queen can keep the mound going, but so much smaller than the original queen, they're incapable of maintaining the rate of egg laying that a primary queen can maintain, and so the termite colony rather, gets smaller to the point that they can't maintain the termite mound. The temperature, the ambient temperature in a termite mound, much like our human bodies, needs to be around 37 degrees Celsius, and variations in that temperature can also lead to the destruction of the colony. And invariably, when something breaks into a termite mound, such as an aardvark or a pangolin or a honey badger, too much of a breach into a mound can mean a loss of temperature, can mean to a loss of temperature, which in turn can kill off a host of eggs and larvae. And then again, the pangolin, or the aardvark, can also be directly responsible for the demise of a termite colony. He was here.
Yeah, he went down. He followed the road. So he went down the road. You see the mud on the road.
Once the termites can no longer maintain the mound or the integrity of the mound, the colony will get smaller, and eventually creatures can get in. First, ants. There's a couple of species of ants that feed exclusively on termites, and in the raid of a column of marching army ants, they can raid and take a few thousand termites away, further depleting the workforce, as it were. And slowly but surely, bigger creatures will get in, and before you know it, the holes are too big to close up, and the colony fails. Yeah, with it crossing that cut line. Of course, there are many termite colonies that don't make mounds. There are very few, in fact. Of all the species of termites we get here, there's this wonderful pinnacle mound termite that everybody, or that is so prominent. Another species that we get is the dome mound or the black mound termite. And doesn't matter how old those colonies are, it doesn't get much bigger than an oversized football. And most of the species of termites actually just live in the ground, tunnels underground, under bark. Some feed on dry grasses, some feed on the bark, some feed on the wood, some feed only on thin branches. Down into a dry water course. There's some beautiful specimens of trees, big leadwoods, called leadwoods because their wood is so dense that the wood sinks like lead. Leadwoods are very good indicators of groundwater. If they're dead, then the water table has dropped. They're extremely long-living trees. Big leadwood can live for a couple of thousand years. No tools that we have can effectively work on the wood of leadwoods. One needs specialized tools to be able to work on. In the old days, the ox wagons used leadwood for their axles. It's been used in boat building for the base of yacht masts. Only the base, might I add. Otherwise it gets a bit heavy up topside. And it's a wood that doesn't rot. It's one of the few woods that termites can't get into, as well as fungi. So it's a dead wood of a leadwood tends to just weather with age like a rock. Couple of dried up case from a snake's egg. Would have been a nest here. You don't see it? Oh, you want to see the egg case? But it's rather old, a little bit leathery, not like the birds. The reptiles' eggs are very leathery and very soft. This could have hatched earlier in the spring. It appears to be from a little depression in the ground that was dug open. Could have been a honey badger, could have been something that dug it out and ate the eggs. Still waiting for the day that I can find a nest just hatching with all those little ones coming out of the ground. Not likely to be a monitor egg, monitor lizard. They tend to lay their eggs in a termite mound. One thing I forgot: monitor lizard breaking into a termite mound. Another enemy of the termites. But the monitor lizard will use their temperature within the termite mound to help incubate the eggs, and at the same time the termites close up the mound after she's broken into it. Beautiful dense woodland that we have here along a dry water course, or a drainage line as we call it. Looking forward to the day when the heavy rain brings these little streams down in flood and go swimming in the muddy water. To have a look far in a way that you can get it with the camera. There's a tree stump here that, although it looks like it's cut by a human a long time ago, very clearly a rubbing post. Possibly this rhino. Very smooth, almost smoothed by sandpaper. That would be probably rhino as well as warthog that have been rubbing after rolling in the mud. One of the hardwoods, one of the woods that are the same family as the leadwood, the tree that doesn't rot or get eaten by termites. Sometimes a stump like that will be around for decades, and part of a rhino's territorial marking will be rubbing on a rubbing post, getting its scent on a post so that other rhinos can learn whose territory it is and when it was last there and what his status is within the rhino community. No fresh track to see if this particular rhino was rubbing today, but I'm sure since this rhino has been here, at some point he rubs on it. Very fresh dung. We've got a midden up front. Very strong smell. Quite a lovely, rich smell. And dung beetles very busy. So this rhino was here quite a little bit earlier. The dung beetles are only just beginning to spread the dung apart. Hasn't been here very long ago. Possibly when we were even with the leopard. I just want to go and a bit closer. Quite fresh, still quite warm in the center of the dung heap, and as gross as that might have looked, it's just processed grass.
Quite
Yeah. Dung beetles having a bit of a scrap over whose ball it is. And the victor climbs on top of his ball. Assesses the situation. No. They try and use their head and that spade shape of their head as a scoop to throw their opponent on their backs and to throw them away, flick them away. One would think with that amount of dung that there'd be enough for everybody, but it's got to do with opportunism. And why go and make your own ball if you can just steal somebody else's? Beetle's very busy. Well, we're losing light, so I think I want to carry on a little bit. Sorry, Rex got in the way of your camera. Carol has just asked if I can find some leaves from a leadwood, which I certainly will. We're back on higher ground now, typically not habitat for a leadwood tree. But as soon as I find we go past one again in a dip, I will gladly pick a few leaves. Small average size leaves with a bit of a wavy margin. There we go, here's a leadwood. Maybe Rex can focus on these branches for Carol. Light not too good. Would it help if I used the light? Let's see if we can put a bit of light on the subject. And hopefully, Carol, that gives you an idea of a branch of a leadwood. Half of this tree is dead, the other half is alive. It's in flower at the moment. There are a host of insects up in the top of the crown, buzzing around flowers as late as the day that it is.
So very good the end of the leaves.
You think?
The leaves.
Yeah.
Sharp end of the
Oh, a sharp end at the end of the leaf. Yeah. There's a foam nest of a tree frog hanging over the water. Try and put some light on that too. Try and pick it up with the camera. great tree frog, or foam nest tree frog. The male and the female sit on a branch, and he kicks up a foam as he fertilizes the eggs, kicks up the foam with his back legs, and the foam forms like a hard crust on the outside. It retains the moisture on the inside. All those little bubbles on the outside form an insulating layer, and within about a day or two the eggs start hatching, and with the movement of all the tadpoles inside, they start condensing the foam, and it breaks through the bottom into droplets, and the droplets drop down into the water, and hopefully the frogs got the nest directly above the water. Very often they're a bit too hasty to make their nest at the beginning of the season, and the first rain falls and the water recedes before the nest hatches. Quite amazing frogs. They're very, very common in human homes in the bush. Find them in the bathrooms during the dry season, where they turn white. Often out in the bush you see them on a tree sitting for the entire dry season, and they go very, very pale. It means to reflect light and retain moisture and reflect the heat. And then when the rain starts coming, a very characteristic frog sound that they do, squeaking. Well, not really a squeak, hard to describe. If I remember correctly, I think it was last night, the cam at the the waterhole, there must have been some tree frogs in vicinity of the microphone, and they were squeaking. Very strong smell of rhino in this area. Light is fading fast. Quite a bit of dark cloud over the escarpment in the west. It's blocking any chance of a colourful sky for sunset. Fresh rhino tracks on the road. So we're still on his tail and his trail, but he's moved off to the right of us, possibly going down into that drainage line. Looks like first quarter moon tonight. Half moon directly overhead. Going to be getting brighter every night for the next week, leading up to full moon next week. And that's always a very special time in the bush. Without pollution and without cloud, you can read a book by the full moon. Pardon? You can't get that high.
Yeah.
But the take the camera off. There's a little bit of haze. Yeah, this rhino's been here again today as well, so he's been back on the road.
It's a big dam which is going ahead of us, so this stop going there.
Okay. Maybe meet up with him before it's too dark. I'm not sure if the microphone picked up those birds as we came across that junction, but there was a large group of red-billed woodhoopoe all singing their song. Quite a beautiful sound. Schlägermafaz, the cackling woman they call them. Oh, Acacia robusta. Still tracks on the road. He's on and off the road, still heading in the same direction. We're heading to a dam. Rexon says we have a dam up ahead. And I'm willing this rhino to be thirsty and hot and sweaty, and he needs a wallow. He needs to go and have a swim. Strong urine smell coming through this dip, and no doubt it's our rhino friend. The smorgasbord of scents coming through these dips. The cold air, the cooler air sinks into these depressions and brings with it the smells of blossoms and the smells of animals and dung and urine and the bush. It's a hearty, lively nature smell. I can breathe it. I can breathe it for the rest of my life. Man the Shongololo. pile on the damn wall. And there's our big boy. Look at this guy, so he's not in front of the tree. Huh? Can't. Okay. It is a bit narrow. But maybe we can... Behind me, go back. Yeah, just there. Sorry. Well, there we go, folks. Get my binoculars out. Too dark. Maybe I should have got a bit faster, knowing that he had a mission to get to this. Okay, well the light is not effective. Can't we go down there? What dam are we at, Rex? Pardon? Purple soup. Marc here in Combi at Buffelshoek Dam. Change. Okay. I'm going to try and get the infrared out for now. Closing link now, folks. We're going to just try and hook up with the infrared. We're really losing light and the rhino is a bit far on the other side of the dam, so we're going to put the infrared on. So we're going to close down for a couple of minutes. We'll see you in 5. Welcome back, folks. It's considerably darker than when we cut away a few minutes ago. Light falls very quickly out here. We're now making our way around the dam, hoping that we're going to find this big old boy. way through here. Should be somewhere down here. You hear something? He's already been here. He's moving quite a bit. Tracks from the road again. Slowly, as it looked like he was moving, he's covered quite a bit of ground already. Straight ahead of us, folks. Seems to be on quite a mission. I don't want to disturb him too much at night, but at least maybe if we can just get a visual of him. There he goes. Following the road as much as we are. Sorry spiders, all these bark spiders that have spun their webs for the evening. Lovely warm summer's evening. Now turned onto a broader road, so there we go. Oh! That comes from watching Rana, not watching the road. Are you okay, Rex?
Yeah. It's not good.
on a mission. Got a date for a Friday night, no doubt. I think we should leave him. What do you think, Rex? You want to follow? Okay. Pardon? Okay. Already gone. See, hesitate for 2 minutes and you lose. Making his way into the bush. Bunch of fireflies in the bushes, which we won't see with the lights on. But pardon? Okay. Probably making a noise on the microphone. Tapping electrical connections. Oh, he's here again. Or was it at 2? Oh, maybe it's the same one. Let me go back on the road. See if we can pick him up again. Oh, there we go. Oh, he's playing with us. Yeah, he's crossing his own path back and forth, going around that bush quite a lot. Maybe there's Easter scent of a female somewhere around there. There he is, right behind us. You can't. Okay, well, he's now crossed back onto our side of the world. There's another rhino. Another rhino. Unfortunately, they're running. There's another bull that's just torn straight out of the bush. A lot of huffing and puffing. Also some impala running up ahead of us that must have been frightened by the whole commotion. Probably what this rhino has been doing in this bush here, picking up the scent of another bull in his territory. Can you hear them? There they are. Oh, there's one. He's also standing listening. I don't know where that other one came out from. But it's possible that in us reversing and trying to get back here, one of them has chased the other one off. Quite a bit of dust in the air, which is not from the vehicle. Pardon? On the torch. You see those ears moving almost through 360. He's standing and listening, most likely because there's another rhino in the area and he's trying to pick up the sound of any movement in the grass. Every now and then you can see a little bit of the reflection out of that really small eye. In comparison to the size of the head of a rhino, they do have a very small eye, hence not a very good eyesight. They certainly overcompensate with a very keen sense of smell and an exceptionally good hearing. You can see those little radar dishes turning around on his ear, on his head. From the front, very easy to see a very broad mouth and line of his jaw. Very, very thick lips. This is a white rhino and is a grazer eating grass. So the very, very square face of his allow him to get very, pinch the grass with those very thick lips, as opposed to the hook lips of a black rhino that has almost prehensile upper lip to be able to pick leaves off of trees.
So this shorthorn.
Yeah.
The name of this one called shorthorn.
Shorthorn, is that his name? Not very easy to see from this angle, but behind his head you can see how sharply that his shoulders go up into what we call the nuchal muscle, the nuchal hump above his shoulder blades, an exceptionally large muscle to help rhino carry the weight of his head. And with such a large muscle, the rhino is able to use his head as a counterbalance in trying to turn around, using the weight of that head, swinging it to the side and pivoting on the front feet. Able to turn on a ticky, as they say in the classics. Beautiful animal. Somewhat prehistoric, in fact. Turning side on to us now. If he moves away from the bush, we'll get to see that nuchal hump. Almost a perfect summer evening. We're now looking south at the moment, and way in the distance some more lightning flashes, possibly some more weather moving up tonight during the night, as long as it holds up for the morning drive. It can rain as much as it likes tonight. I don't know if any of those flashes are translating into the camera behind the rhino, but quite a Yeah, he's walking very stealthily. It's probably fun. Well, welcome back. Had a short break there. We've just seen one of the other rhinos, or the other one, across the road to our left. This one's on our right. Rexon says this one is the more dominant one. So the other one, I think, has moved off. And he's making his way back, looks like maybe back to the dam. No, it's quite far. And the one behind us. Well, the termites are out. We can feast tonight. We've got lots of them coming into the light. Where are we going, Rich?
That looks good.
Okay, folks, we're going to leave these rhino to their own devices for now. That was a crowning moment for the day. Now we just find something nocturnal on the way home to end off a perfect evening. Temperature's perfect. Insects are out in full force. Nights like this I can sit up all night with a light on a white sheet. Except I won't tonight. Parlour in the bush. What we're doing with the spotlight and the lights is trying to pick up the reflection of an eye rather than the entire animal. Most animals are a lot luckier than us humans. They have a special adaptation to the eye that gives them tremendous night vision. A layer of cells, light reflecting cells behind the retina. And this is what we pick up when lights are shone in their direction. Not easy to look for the body of an animal in the dark and in the shadows, but with the light penetrating the bush, picks up the reflection in the eye almost immediately, as long as the animal's looking in our direction. can hear the communication calls of some of the insectivorous bats flying overhead. Their general echolocation calls are quite audible. It's when they start hunting and they start honing in on an insect that their frequencies go above our range. The closer they get to the insect, the higher the frequency. And, well, that just becomes only audible to them and some insects. Strangely enough, some insects, like certain moths that have picked up radar or evolved with radar jamming devices that can confuse a bat's radar, or sonar rather. I remember doing bat studies and using special audio equipment to slow the frequency down so that we could pick up their clicks and identify certain species with clicks that come through a machine. And without our technology, we'd be a bit lost in that super sonic or very high frequency range. Much the same on the other end of the scale with the low frequencies of whales and elephants and other large mammals in the ocean. We need a special equipment to pick it up and try and decipher what it is that they're saying to each other. Clearly distinct vocabularies, distinct vocal, or rather distinctive words that they sing or call, each with its own meaning. And we're picking up those eyes of the impala up ahead that I'm talking about with the light reflecting. Primarily on the lookout for nocturnal animals, or those that are active both day and night. No real need to look at impala at night and maybe affect their night vision and their senses if they need it the most at night. Looking for that pangolin we were talking about earlier. Coming up ahead. Okay. Folks, we're going to be shutting down now. We're getting close to home. We'll be ending this transmission. I want to thank you for joining us this evening. It's been a super game drive. I hope you've all enjoyed it as much as we have. Certainly gives us an appetite for more in the days to come. And we look forward to seeing you in the morning. And you're welcome to keep those comments coming, keep those questions coming. We really enjoy them. Keeps us on our toes. Always a challenge to get a question that we don't know the answer to, that we have to look up. And have a pleasant night or morning or afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a happy weekend. Bye.
Pete in Final Control here. Well, that ends Mark's first full game drive with Wild Earth TV. Obviously, as you could have seen, it's definitely not his first game drive ever, but it's the first one with us. And from the comments and also for myself here in Final Control, I really enjoyed it, and it looks like you, our viewers, also really enjoyed it. And also very important, it looks like Marc also himself really enjoyed it. So he's coming back to camp now, and I'm sure we'll chat a bit about what happened and how he felt and whatever other things come up. For me now, I'm going to say goodnight. I'm going to leave you at the waterhole for now. Both sides, camera Juma 1 and Juma 2. So thank you for watching Wild Earth TV. If you can, stay with us a little bit longer, see what shows up at the waterhole. And otherwise, don't forget our next drive starts 6 o'clock Central African time tomorrow morning sharp. And who knows what we will see then. Good night.